doing a circuit, doing some bike, some bench, and some rows. And on the rows, really trying to concentrate and squeeze, hold to the top. Benches, I'm holding my breath, and the sprints, same thing. Breath holds are, yeah, it's gonna mess with the percentages and the exchange of oxygen to CO2. Ultimately, it's gonna make you breathe more. It's gonna make me probably spend more time inhaling than it is exhaling. But I'm doing it intentionally for stress, trying to take advantage of some of the potential fat burning properties of it. But even with a couple days of being back from my trip from Scotland and Ireland, immediately my body weight went boom, right down to 209 this morning. I also walked a lot when I was in Scotland and Ireland, so there's a lot of other factors in there. Explore nasal breathing when lifting, where you're just doing your set and you're just in the nose and out of the nose. Whatever your cadence would be, doesn't matter too much, but it's gonna be with submaximal weight. It's gonna be with less weight than, right? The heavy bent over rows, things like that. Go ahead and breathe whatever way you need to, I guess. But nasal breathing is really nice. Kind of calms you down and gives you a governor for your sets. So you could say, I'm gonna do 4 sets of incline dumbbell, but you're gonna do it all with nasal breathing. It's a different challenge than just to do it regular. So different challenges get different responses. For those of you that might have joints and stuff messed up, it's a wonderful opportunity to say, I'm gonna do all my training for the next couple of weeks just with nasal breathing. It's not that nasal breathing fixes your joints, it's that the intensity gets ramped down a little bit and you get rid of some of the body English on some of the exercises, which isn't bad. It's just that your body might need a break from those things. And it's nice to put a governor, a cast, some guardrails on your training a little bit, just so you're not always redlining and overdoing it. And then of course, there's times to just completely go for it. And there's times to, do things that are more extreme, like what I'm doing, where I'm doing more like breath holds. That last set, I did like a set of 12. 6 reps I did nasal breathing, and the last 6 reps I did just holding my breath. If you're gonna hold your breath on exercises, make sure there's someone there. Make sure you maybe have a spot. If you're gonna even try it with like walking or something, it'd be nice if you tried it walking on the beach or walking with somebody. That way there's somebody nearby in case something dumb happens. But it is interesting to explore all these things because they have just a different training stimulus. Yeah, tempo training is great. Having decent descents, slower descents, 4 seconds on the way down, pauses. I wrote an article years ago called Underloading, and underloading was the idea of like allowing yourself to use less weight to get really substantial results, because it works in both directions. If you can figure out ways to lift heavier, that's great. Figure out ways to lift lighter, that's great. Meaning you can get a lot out of full range of motion with very little weight, and you can get a ton out of partial range of motion if the weight is appropriate. So these are opportunities to give what I would call an underhand pitch. You want to deliver underhand pitches to yourself in life and deliver underhand pitches to your friends and your family. As a coach, as a mentor, that softball, that nice lob that you give to a 6-year-old that you're teaching to swing a bat, you have him see the ball and you go, right? And you lob it to him. He misses it, you lob it to him again until he can finally make contact with it. We got to give ourselves those underhand pitches, make things a little easier sometimes. You can also be excited by making things a little bit harder, or by making things where you're able to lift more weight. But if you constantly just go for the pin pull deadlift, that's just like you pulling from here to here, and you can do that with 600 pounds, but you can only lift 315 off the ground, and you're kind of getting in an ego lifting category. And you want to be able to do both. You want to be able to express yourself through a full range of motion. You guys saw me get stuck with that weight on the beach, that rock, because that rock is at this position. How's Mark Bell from right here? I mean, hey, I can get my hands there. That's cool, right? That's a good start, but I can't really lift much from there. So you wanna be able to give yourself easier training sessions and harder training sessions. And one simple way to do things is, let's say that you've been doing sets of 10 on the incline dumbbell bench forever, and you got really good at with the 60s and the 70s, but the 75s and 80s are hard to use. Well, go back to the 50s and maybe try to do sets of 20 with slower tempo, and then maybe bring yourself back into the other weights. There's so many ways of doing it. You can say, I wanna do a total of 100 reps with the 55-pound dumbbells today spread over 4 sets. Then you can say, all right, well, I want to get 100 reps, so I want to be able to do it in like 3 sets. Now you got to do like 33-ish reps. You see what I'm saying? Like there's so many ways to figure it out and to work on it. Another way to put a governor on your training is just your rest interval. That's probably one of the easiest ways to slow down the weights that you're using, but to also still have a really positive impact on all your other goals. Frequency is amazing too. For those of you that love to lift, your frequency can be really high if your intensities and volumes are modest to low. I don't see why you couldn't do 4 to 6 sets of back, biceps, triceps, shoulders, chest. For those of you who don't love legs, maybe do once or twice a week legs. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to do that upper body split like 3 times a week. if the intensity is not crazy. And I know everyone always wants to bring up steroids and everything else, but it's crazy. It's so sad to see the comments are all that now. Put up a post about Branch Warren. Everyone's like, yeah, but. All the comments are, yeah, but. It's like, do you have any idea how bad Branch Warren would kill you before he ever took anything? I mean, these guys that we see, these guys that we idolize, they're destroyers well before they ever touch any of this stuff. They just are, they're killers. And they always have been, and they always will be, with or without. It's not to say that steroids don't do a lot for you, they do. But I think some of you are under the impression that they do so much more for you than what they do. It's a card that can be played, and it doesn't exponentially give you better and better results forever and ever and ever. It's just like reintroducing some newbie gains is all it really is doing. And so it only lasts for a few weeks or a few months, depending on the person. It might even extend for a few years, depending on how far down that path someone goes. And if someone gets into like growth hormone and insulin and some of the other things, then it could potentially extend a little bit longer, but it still is a static card that's played. And if you look at any of the big time people you want to put up on a pedestal, whether it's a Chris Bumstead, an Arnold, a Ronnie Coleman, Dorian Yates. Yeah, these guys made improvements as pros, but like they looked insane as pros, and then they just looked more and more insane each year. But it was tiny, tiny bits. It was tiny, tiny bits, unless a few of them were around an era where like, okay, growth hormone was figured out, or insulin was figured, right? There's exceptions a little bit to it, right? But even Ronnie Coleman, as big and as crazy as he was, his improvements from one year to the next wasn't like he put on like 30, 40 pounds of muscle mass. And maybe you guys are disagreeing with what I'm saying or not understanding what I'm saying, but it doesn't work that way. You have newbie gains from the time you're young, first 5 years, first maybe 5 years with knowledge that you train, and then that's it. If you got 5 to 7 years where your luck runs out, you don't lift any more weight, you don't really get any bigger, that's it. If you take anabolics, you take performance enhancing drugs, you might be able to get another 3 years out of that. And if you take growth hormone, maybe it's another 2 years. Take insulin, maybe there's myostatin inhibitors, you might get a little bit more and more and more, but it doesn't work the way that you guys are thinking. Think of the best guy that you know right now. Where are his improvements at? Where are my improvements at? I was 240 pounds when I was in high school. I was 16 years old. We have pictures of me. I don't know if we have pictures of me being 240, but we have pictures of me at like 19, 20 years old, being pretty lean, being probably similar body fat percentage that I am right now, weighing almost the same weight that I weigh right now. Now, obviously the look is different, you know, because I'm 48. I spent a whole entire career powerlifting, lifted thousands of pounds, literally and figuratively, on a platform. And I don't know what the impact of that was on my body versus just the impact of taking steroids. But the point is like whether you're looking at myself or Michael Hearn, like no one's really improving. They're about the same. And I know it's a jump above what the people out there that don't take steroids have. I realize that. I'm in recognition of that. But by how much? How much more is it? Is it 20 pounds? Is it 40 pounds? Maybe for some of the bodybuilders that are competing right now in the Olympia, maybe it's 100 pounds. Maybe they're 100 pounds over what they used to be. Stan Efferding, I think, said he graduated high school at like 135 pounds or something like that. And so nowadays, yeah, he does run around being probably 80, 90 pounds heavier than he was, but he was an ectomorph. So I guess there are some exceptions we can kind of point to. I'm not saying it to try to defend steroid use or abuse, but it just doesn't do nearly what you guys think it does. It doesn't necessarily burn fat. It can be a contributor burning fat because one of the biggest contributors to you burning calories is your metabolic rate. And now, yes, if I gifted you an extra 20 pounds, whether it be muscle or fat, you're gonna burn more calories all day because now you're walking around with an extra 20 pounds. And if you have an active 20 pounds in the sense of muscle mass, yes, that is going to, over the weeks, months, and years, assist you with being able to lose a little bit of body fat. But with that muscle mass comes what? There's a price to pay, and it's called food. And it's gonna make you hungry. So when you have that extra muscle mass, you now have a new appetite. So there's that to deal with. So it doesn't really truly just ignite body fat. It can massively help with your body composition is where it can help the most, because yes, it can give you a nice exchange of muscle mass to body fat, and the body fat could go down, the muscle mass could go up. In addition to that, you can diet and still control and have good muscle mass and still lose body fat, but then you're in like a caloric deficit. Thus proving my point once again. If Chris Bumstead has to step on stage with 1,600 calories for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, that means the rest of us are all fucked too. If you're not going to listen to people that want to be at the top of their game with health, that are going to maybe explore and push into the corners of health that might potentially sometimes maybe not be the safest or not be the smartest, and you're going to end up listening to nobody or listening to nothing. Because I'm telling you right now, there's not a person out there that I can think of that does any of this in some sort of reasonable, healthy way. Everyone has a vice. Everyone has a little something that they're doing. Whether it's not always a chemical. Sometimes it's just the way they're going about doing things. That's the way it be. Blood sugar, a couple little gummy bears in here. I saved someone's life when I was in Ireland. Got done with a workout at a Barry's gym. The girl was like this. The next thing you know, she was like this. I helped get her to the floor and I said, give me some ice. Got the ice, got down on the ground with the girl, put the ice on her wrist, told her friends, get her socks and shoes off. They were doing that, but I don't think they knew what I was talking about because they only halfway did it. As I put the ice on her wrist, her eyes went, and she just looked at me like, what the fuck? I was like, you're surrounded by good people. You got good support. Your friends are here. She's passed out. All you got to do is breathe, try to calm down. And then so she just laid there for a little bit and I helped calm her down. And then I said, I'm not leaving until I see that you're sitting down and that you're okay. And so we got her up. She sat down. It was hard to even get her seated. Her legs weren't under her at all. And I said, oh, I'd like to see you stand up in a little bit. So we waited a little while. But in those situations, you know, it's either someone's blood pressure or it's their blood sugar. Could be blood pressure high, could be blood pressure low, could be blood sugar high, blood sugar low. And many of you out there that are EMTs and firefighters and doctors and so forth and emergency personnel or whatever, you guys know way more than me, so there could be other complications as well. Those are the things that kind of clicked in my head, being someone that's been around fitness for a long time. I know how to take people out, but if you know how to take people out, you better know how to bring them back. And I know how to bring them back because I've had to bring back many people before. And I didn't have any smelling salts with me, so that's a pretty good way. But that one, you got to be a little more careful. So yeah, I was mentioning, you know, I was able to save that girl that got in like a compromised position there with her workout. I'm sure she probably would have been, you know, maybe she would have been okay otherwise. But to be able to revive somebody and to learn some of these things over the years is really cool because I've had opportunities to work with a lot of people and train with people in a lot of different environments where the environments are extremely cold or the environments are extremely hot or where the environments are extremely intense and you see someone pass out. It's really nice to like sort of know what to do for them. And every situation can be a little different, so I can't really give recommendations on like how to handle every situation. But obvious things, you know, making sure someone doesn't pass out and hit their head is a really good one. Trying just to make sure someone's comfortable. Obviously, calling 911 is a very, very good idea in most cases. The problem is, in the United States, it can end up being a very, very expensive ride, and that part really sucks because that expense could be like legitimately a giant burden on whoever had to take the ambulance. Could be like 9,000, 10,000, 11,000. I mean, it's insane. All you're thinking about is safety, right? But then all of a sudden, you know, it's 6 hours later and you're in the hospital and you're fine. And now you're starting to think about like, oh, I wonder what the finances of this are going to be. And they could be a lot. So sometimes they're not worth it. So in some cases, you're better off trying to drive somebody to the emergency room. But if you don't know what's wrong with somebody, you're stuck. You kind of need to call 911 because those emergency people will be able to tell what's wrong with the person right away. And that's what happened to me when I was on a run a few years ago, where I didn't know what was wrong with me. I wasn't sure if my blood pressure or my blood glucose was too high or too low. I didn't know if there was something else going on. But as soon as they came and pricked my finger, then, you know, we found out right away. So it is helpful to have like medical people, but anyway, I just think about those things because it's really interesting because I've never taken one of those classes before. You guys probably have seen Barry's Fitness. It's all over the United States. There's all these gyms everywhere now. And I just saw it and I was like, oh, that'd be interesting to go work out there. And my wife's like, oh yeah, that would be cool. And I was explaining to her what it is. I was like, oh, it's these classes and you like run on a treadmill and then half the group is like lifting weights and then you switch, I think is how it works. And she's like, oh, that does sound cool. Let's go sign up. So we signed up. We went in to work out the next day. And we went to work out the next day. When we finished the workout, that's when I noticed the girl not feeling well and her, passing out. And she happened to be a local there in Dublin, Ireland. And we just happened to be, passing through. I think that might have been one of her first classes she's ever taken. And that was certainly my first class I've ever taken. So the odds of us being there at the same time is super. I just find stuff like that to be really interesting. So anyway, I'm grateful and thankful that I was able to help someone on my trip. And we had an amazing time in Scotland and in Ireland. And, for those of you that are going to go on vacation, make the most of it that you can. And, just understand that you don't have to, you don't necessarily have to be so worried or concerned about like your fitness when you're on these trips. I think one simple way to make sure you're getting some of it in, well, without being a maniac, is just to go on walks. That's what I did. Anytime anybody else went on a walk, I would usually go with them, on top of me just doing a couple extra walks. And then I came back and weighed 2 or 3 pounds lighter, which was nice, rather than coming back weighing 6 or 7 pounds heavier, which I've had happen before on some vacations. So anyway, that's some of my adventures in Ireland and Scotland. It was a beautiful trip, and grateful to Indiana Stones for taking my wife and I around and showing us the various stones of Ireland, giving us some of the history of Ireland, showing us some of the castles, and a lot of just really cool scenery along the Copper Coast. He showed us a lot of interesting and cool different things in Waterford, Ireland. Strength is never weakness, weakness never strength. Catch you guys later.